Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. With the slump yesterday, as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point, other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. This is Toadstool Sports. It is Saturday, March 31st. As March Madness continues, it hasn't been that mad. So we'll see how it continues. We're going to talk about how to handicap the second round because it's a bit of a different handicap. I think easier for me than the first round is because there are more situations that set up. Northern Iowa did not get there. I mean, dude, we got to a point where, St. John's scored, 17 points in the first 15 minutes of the second half, which is, nothing. And yet, Northern Iowa still was not in range to cover that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It was a pretty low-scoring game. St. John's didn't score that many points. That's basically what you want when you're playing the big underdog like that. I should have also mentioned, you could probably wait on that one when I talked about it in the morning because 10.5 was there, although it didn't matter at all. I'm pissed about it. And then we did get the win with the Calgary Flames to go 1-1 for a slight loss yesterday. One thing I did not realize is that Calgary they'd won 6 home games in a row against the Florida Panthers. So the Panthers do not play well in Calgary in recent history. So that was another bonus there that we didn't even, I didn't even need to consider that to add that as a play there. But glad that we did because that was a win on Calgary. We'll move on today. We're going to have 2 college basketball plays, 1 hockey play, and then the NBA play. You're not going to like it. I'll tell you that. You might not like any of these. Well, I don't know. College is just a totally different handicap, so we're going to have some favorites in this round of the college basketball tournament. Kyle, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right, but you can be contrarian and still play favorites, so there is that. Let's talk about it, man. College basketball, the NCAA Tournament, second round, first game up in the Midwest. Well, first I should say, the way you want to handicap these games, basically, as far as the totals are concerned, I think overs actually tend to come in more so in the second round because these teams are now used to the venue, so the sight lines are better for them now that they're playing in the same venue for the second game in a row. And they're a little bit more tired on the quick turnaround time, so overs make a bit more sense in this round. And you want to look towards the better coach because you have 2 teams that don't really know each other very well. And on the quick turnaround time, the edge goes to the better coach, if that makes sense, more so than it usually would. So those are things to consider here. St. Louis and Michigan is the first game up, continuing in Buffalo, New York. Where I think Michigan probably has a decent crowd there. I didn't really watch the Michigan game against Howard, but, St. Louis looked really, really good. So now everybody knows who they are. As I tweeted out, I feel like I've been listening to some band for 4 years, and now all of a sudden everyone is listening to them with Robbie Avila. Avila. I'm like, dude, I knew who this guy was, years ago, and now everybody's like, who is this guy? I'm like, did you not watch Missouri Valley basketball back in the day. I don't know, man. And he's not fully healthy right now either. He's got plantar fasciitis, although he was making some good plays in that game. St. Louis annihilated Georgia. Georgia, they don't play defense, though. Yeah, guess who does, though? Michigan. Georgia, they're not a good team, dude. St. Louis, interestingly, both these teams put up over 100 points in the first game. And I know there is a trend where when teams put up 100 points in the opening round, they actually have a good against the spread record in the second round, which doesn't make any sense because you think that if somebody scores 100 points in the first game, you'd think they'd be overvalued in the next game. I guess that's not the case, but we don't have to worry about that here because both teams scored over 100 points. That would kind of make me think, well, I'd kind of want to go under in this game because both these teams scored so many points. But I don't think we could do it, man. I mean, it's a quick turnaround time. Like I said, these games tend to go over a little bit. These teams both go up-tempo. They both have good offenses. So it's, yeah, I mean, I would not want an under in this game. Even if you think maybe it makes a little bit of sense. The total is 161. I was going to say 151. That's not high enough. Yeah, 161. Money looks like it's actually coming in on the over in this game, although I don't know how much value there could really be. The line's already gone up towards the over, and both teams scored 100 points in the first game. Now, I'm going to lean to Michigan, though, in this game. Michigan looks like the money is not agreeing with me. They're laying 12.5 here, 53% of the tickets on them, 60% of the cash on St. Louis. I just think St. Louis got all the hype from that first round because people didn't know who they were, right? So now they're kind of that trendy team, whereas everybody knows who Michigan is. People aren't going to like the fact that Michigan gave up 100 points against gave up 80 points against Howard, 100 points. Well, gave up 80 points against Howard, but Michigan just stopped putting in defensive effort in that game because why would you when you're going to win the game anyway, right? Just start looking ahead to the next game. Don't get yourself hurt, whatever. Don't tax yourself. I'm fine with that. St. Louis, the problem for them is, yeah, they just put up a ton of points against Georgia, but like I said, Georgia, their defense is god-awful. Michigan is the number one defense in the country, so there is going to be a little bit of a difference there. It's going to be more difficult for St. Louis to score that many points in this one. They'll score a good amount probably, but not enough, I don't think, in this one. I like Michigan here, but not a strong opinion from me. The second game up is in the East region in Buffalo, New York as well. So Buffalo, first two games, both in Buffalo, and both involving a Michigan team. It's not really that far away from Buffalo. Louisville and Michigan State. This one's a little bit more interesting. Charles, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Michigan State, now they won pretty easily, I believe, against North Dakota State. Nothing to really see there. Louisville beat the very trendy underdog, South Florida. A couple of things that I forgot to mention with South Florida is they did have a bit of a motivational aspect to that game where I believe South Florida's coach's father was in the audience for that game because I guess he can't go to many games, and I guess he lives in the Buffalo area, so he was able to attend that game, something like that. So a little bit of a motivational edge there. And then that plus, I believe South Florida's coach last year died towards the end of the season due to a surgery that went wrong or something. I don't know. You might have to look that up. I don't know. But that might have had South Florida a little bit more motivated now that they get to the tournament again for the first time in a long time. But either way, that game's over. South Florida did cover, although I don't think they really should have covered in that game. Louisville pretty much had the upper hand. Louisville, really difficult to handicap them because all they do is jack up threes, and they're still without their best player, Mikael Brown Jr. I don't believe he's playing in this game. What are you going to get out of Louisville? It's almost like throwing darts, dude. You don't know if they're going to hit their threes or not. Michigan State does allow a lot of threes. Their three-point defense is actually not that good, so that's not great as far as the matchup for Michigan State, but one thing that is good for Michigan State is they slow the game way down, which is not what South Florida does and not what Louisville does. So Louisville's going to have to completely change pace here. Michigan State, if they could slow Louisville down, that should kind of put Louisville out of what they want to be doing. Michigan State does have the better defense in this game. Really, really tough call. Michigan State initially went up to 4.5, but the money looks like it's all taking Louisville here. 82% of the tickets, only 51% of the cash. So Michigan State, very public side. Not a lot of the money on them. This is like almost an impossible game for me to handicap. I do think that probably total is correlated to the side. I think under and Michigan State are correlated. Total's at 150.5. Now over would be correlated to Louisville. The market read is saying Louisville. I don't really have a strong disagreement with it. I know I have Michigan State getting through this in my bracket. We'll see what happens, but at least basically nobody has Louisville there, so we'll see what happens. Maybe that part of that region just starts becoming chaos, man. I don't know. But remember, I did say quick turnaround time. You do have to consider who the coaches are, and I do think Tom Izzo does have the advantage here on the quick turnaround time. I apologize. I don't even remember who Louisville's coach is. Izzo's got to have the edge over him, though. And in the first game, I think you got to give Dusty May the edge over Shirts. I think it's St. Louis's coach's name. He's been good, though. All right. Yeah, that's what I thought. He was like in his 40s, too. South Florida's coach there. She squealed. What's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right, the next game up is going to be one of my plays. You might not like this one, and you might think this is unlike me, but I'm telling you it's not, because I go contrarian all the time. We're looking at what happened in the first round. That's why I like the second round, because everybody overreacts to what happened in the first round. And what was the biggest overreaction that we saw in the first round? Duke sucks is the overreaction. They were losing by double digits to Siena. They almost lost to Siena in the 16 versus 1 game. Siena, by the way, they literally didn't rest any of their starters in the entire game. Their coach is Jerry McNamara, by the way, I'm pretty sure. Siena, yeah, I mean, they ran out of gas at the end of that. Siena, I think they only go like 6 deep, but they never even used any of their bench players in that game. And, their starters were playing well, but they ran out of steam at the end of the game. Everybody's going to overreact to it. I would say don't do that. We're going to lay the points with Duke against TCU. People are going to be like, how could Duke possibly win by double digits against TCU when they almost lost to Siena, right? Well, Duke, dude, I know Duke is missing 2 players. We know Foster. That was already expected. He is not going to play until late in the tournament, if at all, if they even get that far. I thought Ngungbo was going to be back for Duke, but he isn't. So I guess maybe they figured, well, we can beat Siena without him anyway. They did. But I think Duke, I think Duke took Siena really lightly. If you watched any of that game, Duke, it almost looked like a cat playing with a mouse. It was like, how did Duke almost lose that game? Like, they were, like, so clearly the way better team, like, physically and whatever. Like, it was like Duke could just turn it on at any time and just end this game. It was so ridiculous. It's not going to happen in this one. Duke will take TCU more seriously here. Now, one thing that's really good is when you have a really good team that gets a huge scare in the first round, it's good to play them in the second round because they're going to be focused because they know how bad they were in that first game. They know they got away with it. As far as Shire, as his, with his coaching, whatever, I mean, he's still relatively new, but he's done this before. He's been to 2 Final Fours already. I mean, come on. I know he's up against Jamie Dixon. Dixon's a good coach as well. I don't know if one necessarily is that big of an edge over the other. But in this one, we're going with the situation. This game is also in Greenville, South Carolina. So Duke is going to have a massive crowd at this game. No doubt about that. TCU got a nice win over Ohio State. Tough win. Yeah, give them credit for that. That was good. It's just not going to happen, man. It's not going to happen. I know TCU, they played well against Michigan early in the year. They beat Florida. So I know TCU has this kind of giant killer aspect to them. But, they did have a double-digit loss to Arizona on their own floor in there. Mostly, yes, they've stepped up well against their big opponents. But I just think, you're going to run into a Duke team that's going to be, like, massively focused in this game and getting a home crowd. I actually think this line is a little bit light here. Duke is still the way better team. We're on Duke here. 11.5, 58% of the cash on Duke, 51% of the tickets on TCU. That's that. The Duke's first round game doesn't bode well for Duke's championship aspirations. I'll tell you that, because no one seed that's won the championship has ever failed to win their first game by at least 15 points. So that does not bode well for Duke. But even so, I like them in this game at the very least. Duke's going to win this game, man. You agree with it? Yeah. Yeah, some of these, I mean, yeah, it doesn't look good for Duke as far as winning the championship, but they're still one of the best teams in the country, man. Even without those two players, they're still like a top several team in the entire country. So, yeah, and these first games can be weird where teams just, they're out of sorts early in the game, whatever. I did give out a lean on Siena plus the points in that one. I didn't want to make it a play, but yeah. All right, next game up is Texas A&M and Houston in the South Regional. This is in Oklahoma City, which I think is, obviously it's not beneficial necessarily to either team in this case because the game's going to be close to Texas. I don't think it's a good matchup for Texas A&M. Texas A&M, they play buckyball. He's still new as a coach here. They play super fast. I thought that St. Mary's was going to be able to slow them down. That didn't happen, but Houston is an even more slow-down team and a way better team. So I don't think Texas A&M is going to be able to do what they want to do here. I think Houston's going to be able to slow the game down. Houston, they're coming off a pretty easy win. They beat Idaho pretty easily, whatever. A&M, they at least got used to playing a slow-down team, but I just don't think it's enough. Houston has the coaching edge here as well with Kelvin Sampson. I mean, he's been to multiple Final Fours, been to one championship game. Got to give him the coaching edge here. In an environment like this, I like the slow-down team better as well, which is Houston. Houston is the better team. Houston gets it done here, man. That would be my guess. I don't really want to lay the double digits. Even though I know I'm doing it with Duke, and Duke is also a slow-down team. That's kind of an extreme scenario, though. I'm not going to do it with Houston here, but I would actually I think I would still lean towards laying the points with Houston here. The money's not agreeing with me, though. 68% of the tickets, 65% of the cash on Houston, so less of the cash on them. 10.5 is the number on that. It is a pretty low total, around the same that it is in the Duke game, but some of that is going to be that, Duke and Houston are going to come out and play some defense as well. So, Poland Spring, yeah, not Moland. I like the name Moland. That's another South Park? My mind's everywhere. Seinfeld. That's another Seinfeld reference for you there. Yes, I'm getting microplastics in my balls. All right, we're getting into the evening games here. We do have Texas and Gonzaga in the West region in Portland, Oregon. So I think Gonzaga does have a site edge here in Portland, which is pretty close to Spokane, Washington, relatively close where Gonzaga plays. Texas, they got the job done. That was a play that I gave out the other day. They got it done. They were one of the play-in teams that I thought had an advantage because they'd already gotten a game under their belt. I was not high on BYU at all. Texas got the job done there. Gonzaga, I consider putting this on my card because Gonzaga is one of those teams where they didn't look good as a favorite in their first game. I thought they were going to easily handle Kennesaw State, and it didn't happen. Kennesaw State slowed the game down, which I didn't think was going to be what they were going to do. And Gonzaga actually had trouble in that game, and they didn't get through it by that much. So I think Gonzaga got a bit of a scare there, man. I think they're going to turn it on and play better in this game. They're still the better team here. Gonzaga definitely has the better defense here. That's Texas's weakness, is that their defense is outside the top 100. Texas also tries to play slow, and Gonzaga wants to go fast. And I think Gonzaga might be able to do that a little bit better in this one. I mean, I know it is easier to slow the game down, and Kennesaw was able to do it, but I think that was kind of unexpected because Kennesaw is not even a slow-down team, so that made no sense. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to lean towards the favorite that barely got by in the first game here. I like Gonzaga in this one. I'm also going to give them the coaching edge here between Mark Few and Sean Miller. Sean Miller, he's got to put the white shirt on, man, so he can sweat through it again. If you remember that back when he was with Arizona. That was like one of the things that he's most known for, was completely sweating through his shirt. It looked like he wasn't even wearing a shirt anymore, if you remember that. That was during the tournament, and I don't know, when was that? I don't know, it was about a decade ago probably. You can go find that pretty easily. I'm pretty sure Sean Miller, now with Texas. He's an experienced coach, but he's not as good as Mark Few. I think Gonzaga is going to make some adjustments here. I think they're going to get the job done. The money's not agreeing with me on that, but I would lay it in this one. A lot of favorite opinions from me here, I know, but Gonzaga laying 6 here, 59% of the tickets, 60% of the cash on Texas. 59% of the tickets and 60% of the cash on Texas, I should say. To me, I think the public just doesn't really want Gonzaga that much after that first game. So those are my thoughts there. Key, what's up, man? You think Texas is going to win the game outright? As you just heard, I do not agree with that. Good luck if you do that. I like Gonzaga on that one. That one, it was close to being a play for me, I'll tell you that. So I do not agree. But we'll see who wins there. I'm not going to have any bets on it or anything. So good luck with your bet. Yes, Sean Miller with the Sean Miller wet T-shirt contest. Yes. All right, we have VCU and Illinois in the South region in Greenville, South Carolina. So the site edge actually is a little bit in favor of VCU. I think we got to probably give the coaching edge to Underwood. I mean, he's made some somewhat deep tournament runs in the past. I was there in person for Illinois when they made that run to the Elite Eight a couple of years ago. Illinois, and Iowa State and UConn, of course. They're the year that UConn won as the overall 1 seed, which sucked for me because I wasn't going to pick them in my bracket. But I was at those games. It was kind of boring. UConn just easily won those games, but I did see Illinois play there. Anyway, Illinois, they won in their first game pretty easily. They beat Penn. I mean, we knew Penn was not really going to stand a chance there, and I think Power was kind of playing injured or something for Penn as well. Illinois, easy win for them there. VCU, though, is kind of they're one of those Cinderella teams right now, if you want to call it. I don't consider them to be that. I mean, they were only a 2-point underdog against a pretty weak North Carolina team, and they beat them. I don't know how North Carolina blew that game, dude. I really don't. As you guys know, I had North Carolina in my bracket to get through that one game. I have Illinois winning this game, obviously. And for what it's worth, I have Gonzaga advancing in my bracket. Houston, Duke, Michigan State. That's how my bracket goes right now. Anyway, and I almost got every game in my bracket right yesterday until Missouri let me down in the last game of the night. Although I wasn't perfect on Thursday, obviously, and I won't be for the rest of the tournament either. Anyway. Yeah, VCU, I don't know what happened in that game with North Carolina. I mean, they blew a 19-point lead in the last, 8 minutes of the game, I want to say. They were up 14 with, 5 minutes left. They were still up 5 in the final, 40 seconds. I don't know how that happened. I watched the end of that game, and I still don't know how it happened. There was that one bad foul call where VCU's player fell. Nobody even touched him, and they called the foul there. He hit both free throws. Then North Carolina had a couple of the worst possessions you'll ever see. They had 2 possessions to try to win the game, and I don't even think they got a single shot attempt off. Then they only scored 3 points in overtime, which is absolutely outrageous, ridiculous. None of it makes any sense. So I don't know, man. I mean, Illinois clearly is the better team here. Are they going to cover this number, though, I guess is, what we have to figure out here. I don't know. The money is coming in on Illinois, 59% of tickets, 64% of the cash on them. I mean, this Illinois team, they're very, very good on offense. I think they are the considerably better team here. I don't know. VCU seems a little bit kind of trendy after that first game that they had there. I mean, I think the public is going to think that's kind of a lot of points to be laying with the 11.5 there. I would probably lean towards laying it, to be honest. With that one, I struggle a lot to figure that game out. Probably the most competitive game of the day is the 5-4 matchup in the South, Vandy and Nebraska, which is in Oklahoma City. So the site advantage is Nebraska's here. Nebraska did have a lot of fans at the game. But you could be seeing maybe a little bit of a letdown here for Nebraska because they got their first tournament win in program history, man. That was a huge deal for them. Huge win. Finally get that done. Now you could make the argument now the monkey's off their backs and now they can just play looser. That's true. Nebraska does have the better defense here. Both of these teams are somewhat tournament inexperienced, although Vandy was in the tournament last year. I think Vandy is the more balanced team here, though, man. Nebraska does have the better defense, but Vandy has more balance, and they are the better offense, of course. Vandy's going to try to speed the game up. Nebraska's going to try to slow it down. And normally I do lean to these slow down defensive teams. I don't know, man. I don't know if I trust Nebraska. As far as the coaching is concerned, I don't even know which way I would give the coaching edge here. I don't even remember who Vandy's coach is, to be honest with you. I know Nebraska has Hoiberg. Vandy, if you look at what happened in the first round, though, people are not going to be that impressed that Vandy only beat McNeese by 10. Vandy was losing that game by 10 early in the game, though, and they turned it on and swung the game by 20 points, which is not that easy to do against McNeese, so you got to give them credit for that, whereas Nebraska absolutely destroyed Troy, so maybe they look a little bit better than they actually are with that win like that. I tend to lean towards the team that had the closer call in the first game, you know what I mean, because it's almost like they're more used to the pressure situation, sort of, but also they didn't look as good as maybe they actually are. There's a reason why Vandy is actually the favorite in this game. The odds makers are telling you they're the better team. I do have Vandy winning this game in my bracket, even though they're a little bit of a public-ish side in the brackets there. I'm going to lean to Vandy in this one, though. 50% of the tickets, 51% of the cash on Vandy. I'll lean that way, but it's not a strong opinion for me at all. You like Vandy? You like Vandy? Oh, man. If everybody likes Vandy, that I might have to... dude, I need to be contrarian. That might mean I'm not thinking about this game right. I don't know. I mean, I agree with it, but not a strong opinion. Mark something? Mark? Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah, that's a good point. Nebraska, they live and die by the 3. You're correct. Vandy has more balance in that regard as well, yes. These teams that, live and die by the 3, Vandy, Louisville, Wisconsin already died, which I'm going to talk about next, I think. Yeah, this is my other play. This is the last game of the night in Portland, Oregon, which is not a good site for either of these teams, High Point and Arkansas. But we're going to also have a favorite in this game. We're going to lay the points with Arkansas. You know me, dude. I'm not buying these Cinderella runs. I think are just not a thing anymore. We got the NIL, the transfer portal. I mean, it's sad. March Madness is, I don't think it is what it was. We're going to fade the trendy, the only serious underdog that got the win in the first round, High Point. I don't think they're going to be able to turn around and do it again here. And again, what have I been saying throughout this episode here is that the better coach has the advantage on the quick turnaround time here. We're going to go with Calipari with that one, even though I am not a fan of his, but he's the better coach here. High Point, their coach is actually new this year, although he was like an assistant last year, took over for the dude's name who I never remember. I keep wanting to say it's Alan Huss was their coach last year, but I can't remember if that's actually his name. And he's like waiting in the wings to take over at some larger school, and I forget where he went as well, but... I think Arkansas is going to get it done. I know we lost trying to fade Arkansas with Hawaii. I know Hawaii, their defense just didn't do enough they almost got the cover, but it never felt like they were really going to. They missed it by a few points. But I think Arkansas is going to take care of business here, man. They saw what High Point just did, so they're not going to take High Point for granted now. Now, High Point matched up better against Wisconsin than against Arkansas because Arkansas doesn't turn the ball over very much. Wisconsin turns it over more than Arkansas does. High Point relies on turnovers. They have a good turnover margin. They get a lot of turnovers. They're not going to be able to do that as much against Arkansas. Arkansas is also not heavily three-point reliant. High Point defends the 3 fairly well. Wisconsin relies on the 3. Arkansas doesn't. Arkansas tries to drive to the basket a lot, so that's not a good from a matchup perspective. I don't think that's good for High Point. High Point is coming off the high, pun intended, I guess, of pulling off that upset. huge game. It was their first tournament win in program history because last year was their first appearance. So I think it's kind of like, job done. And if you saw some of the post-game press conference stuff with High Point, they seem to be over-celebrating to me, man. So I think that's not a good thing. You're gonna run into a legit Arkansas team here. Yeah, I don't like how it sets up for High Point in this one. Also, High Point was plus 18 from three-point range against Wisconsin. But both of those teams do take a lot of threes. But High Point had 6 more three-pointers made than Wisconsin did, and they only won the game by 1. So that's not a good sign, dude, that Wisconsin actually still dominated High Point in the paint in that game. And Wisconsin had Winter back, but he looked like he was still playing injured and whatever. Dude, guard, Wisconsin's going to have to get rid of that guy. He keeps losing these tournament games, high-pressure games, games that they shouldn't lose. He just does these weird things where he switches up their, rotation and, doesn't keep, he doesn't stick with what's working. Very, very weird. I don't know what's up with that guy. Anyway, yeah, something like that's not going to happen in this game, I don't think. But what I was saying is Wisconsin still dominated in the paint against High Point. Arkansas is a team that likes to, get it to the basket. So I think they're going to be able to do the same thing. And Arkansas, by the way, they did not hit many threes. And they still won their game by 20 points. And they only hit 6 3-pointers, I think. Or maybe even less. It might have been 4. Whatever it was, Arkansas didn't have to rely on the 3, and they still won that game easily. That's a good sign, whereas High Point barely won their game, even though they had a huge 3-point advantage in the game. So that's not a good sign for High Point moving forward. So we are going to lay it with Arkansas here. The money doesn't look like it's agreeing with me, though. 63% of the tickets, 62% of the cash on Arkansas. They're laying 11.5. Money seems to not be agreeing with me, but we're doing it, man. So, yeah, dude, do I like every favorite? That's not good. I lean against Michigan State. That's the only underdog opinion that I had on that slate. Whatever. It's the way that it is, man. Yeah, Chase Johnson. But, it's so unsustainable, though. There are 4 minutes left in the game. Let me just chuck up a shot from the logo. You can't just keep doing that, man. That's not going to be sustainable. Over, I would not really disagree with an over here. Again, it's a second game on a quick turnaround time. That lends itself towards overs. The money looks like it's kind of indicating towards the under, though, with less of the money than the ticket percentage on that total there. It's a very high total, though. It's high for a reason, 169, which, would have me sort of leaning over there. Arkansas, good offense, not a great defense. Same with High Point. So, yeah, both teams are definitely better on offense. I'm not really going to disagree with an over, even though it seems too obvious. But, yeah. Arkansas second half, yeah, that might be something that might be a live betting thing. See how the first half goes. And, if Arkansas is losing at halftime, which I really don't think is going to be the case, if they are, then maybe playing Arkansas in the second half seems like a pretty good idea. Yes, Mark Few. I think Charles is saying that, not Mark Krieg, by the way. Charles is saying that I think Mark is also Vandy's coaches. I don't even know, man. All right, and we do have 2 NIT games that I'm not really interested in, but the NIT continues tonight with Dayton going to UNC Wilmington. Dayton won as a road favorite in their first game against Bradley. Easy win for Dayton. They're kind of a weird spot now, though, where they have to go from Illinois now to UNC Wilmington because the higher seed, or the better seed, I should say, is the host of these games. Wilmington is traveling back from Yale. They went up to Yale and pulled off the upset there. I told you I liked UNC Wilmington in that game because Yale, the way that they lost their conference tournament and should have gotten into the NCAA tournament was just, I thought it was a very deflating loss. I thought they wouldn't show up in this game. Wilmington got the job done there. This is a tough call here in this one. The one good thing for Wilmington is they get to play another slow-paced team. Wilmington has really struggled against teams that speed it up, but that is not Dayton and that is not Yale. So Wilmington gets to play these slow-paced teams here. Dayton's a 2.5-point favorite, 59% of tickets, only 55% of the cash. Low total here. I wouldn't really disagree with an under, to be honest, in this game. But, you do have to worry a little bit about the travel. But, like, a team like Dayton, going to another new venue, they got to get used to the new venue. I think I would lean to NC Wilmington in that one, plus the points. Not a strong opinion, though. And then Liberty and Nevada. Nevada is the only one of these teams that's staying at home because they actually won at home. The home teams didn't do well in the first round of the NIT. Some of them got knocked out, and many of them didn't cover. Good for us because we won on South Alabama on the show. But Liberty, they pulled off the upset. I don't really trust Liberty, though. Like, I don't really think they're that good. They're undersized and they're 2 3-point reliant. They did beat George Mason, who I think is also kind of an overrated team. Nevada is a little bit different, man. I think from Liberty, they're having to go from George Mason in Virginia all the way out to Reno for this. That's going to be a weird travel spot, man. Nevada, I think, does have a pretty big edge staying at home. They're also 16-2 straight up at home. Although, obviously, you're going to have to lay points here if you want Nevada. Nevada won the first game at home against Murray State, who was a little bit overrated, I think. And, these teams having to travel to Reno. It's not going to be easy. I would lay it with Nevada on this one if I was going to do anything with it. Liberty, 58% of the tickets, only 52% of the cash on them. Nevada is a 7-point favorite. So those are my thoughts on the NIT. All right, let's do hockey. We have a bunch of hockey because it's Saturday. I will have one play in hockey here. You get burned by overs. You got to find the right spots to play the overs, I guess I would say. I mean, the public likes overs, so I think the unders probably do cash a slight majority of the time, but not enough that you could just blindly fade overs. I don't know. If you pick the right spots for overs, I think you can definitely win by doing so. NHL Network in the afternoon at 1 p.m. We have Winnipeg and Pittsburgh. This is actually my play. I started going through the hockey board, and I'm right away, I love this play in the first game. And then I'm like, oh, crap. How many of these games am I going to like? And then I'm like, oh, it turns out this is the only one. This is the hockey best bet here. And I like this one quite a bit. We're going to be on Winnipeg on the money line. Get a nice money line underdog price here, plus 136. It's in that range where I would just say play the money line on this one. I mean, if you want to do some crazy shit and split the bet, puck line, money line, you could do that too. I just think, it's a small enough underdog price that it's in that range where I would just say go money line. Winnipeg, they're coming off a horrible loss to my Boston Bruins, 6-1. The Bruins are really good at home. Hellebuck was in net for that one. I know bad performance from him. I'm expecting that he will play again in this game because he usually plays a lot of games in a row. They're not on a back-to-back or anything. I think they're in a bounce-back spot regardless, though. When you lose 6-1, you're going to be angry and you're going to come out with more focus. I think in the next game you're going to be focused more on playing better defense, etc. So I think you're going to get a better effort out of Winnipeg here. Pittsburgh's been having a decent season, so they're not a team you're really going to overlook. And for Pittsburgh, the spot for them is horrible. They're returning home from a road trip that they've been on since March 10th, where they started with a shootout loss at Carolina. They went through that road trip. They were on the road the whole time. They went all the way out to the Pacific Coast, into elevation. They killed Colorado towards the end of the road trip, and then they finished the road trip by losing at Carolina again on Wednesday in overtime. Huge game, dude. You take Carolina to overtime, that's a monster effort there. Now, I know they've had a couple of days off, but they're coming off of that monster game. They're returning home from a road trip, and I talk about when teams return home from road trips, a lot of times they won't be focused because they have to get back to home life. They have stuff to do at home. It becomes a distraction. You might overlook your opponent if it's not a good opponent, like Winnipeg. You're coming off a monster couple of games here, crushing Colorado, almost beating Carolina. And it gets worse because who does Pittsburgh play next? They play Carolina tomorrow, and then they play Colorado after that. So they're in a palindrome spot here. I mean, look at this. This is insane. They're in a double-decker sandwich here. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It's insane. This spot is so bad for Pittsburgh. Winnipeg is the play in this one. The money looked like the money's disagreeing with me on this. I don't even know how that's possible. Winnipeg is the right side here. 59% of the tickets, 97% of the cash on Pittsburgh. I don't get it at all. Like, this is one of the better spots that I've seen. I couldn't believe it when I saw this. Like, everything lines up for me on this game. Winnipeg, unload on it, baby. Don't overbet. I'm kind of kidding. Don't bet more than you can afford on anything. You don't want to, like, elevate your bet size, like, for one thing. Like, yeah, like, if you want to weigh your bet, like, a little bit more strongly because this one is stronger, that's fine. Do that, but it's got to be within your parameters still. You know what I mean? Like, again, I recommend, like, having a bankroll and never betting more than, like, at max, I think you probably want to put, like, 1.5% of your bankroll on a bet that you think is, like, extremely strong. You know what I mean? I don't even usually do that. Like, me, I just do, like, 1% on everything pretty much. So take from that what you want to. Vegas at Nashville in the afternoon. Vegas coming off two straight shutout losses after a shutout win. So every game has been a shutout for Vegas recently. Coming off a 4-0 home shutout loss to Utah. Going out on the road. Should be a spot where you should get some focus out of Vegas here, but they do have Dallas tomorrow. So there is the potential look ahead there that would worry me a little bit about Vegas being in a bounce back spot here. Nashville coming off a couple of wins here. We tried to fade Nashville in the return home spot, and they still beat Seattle, which is, I'm not happy about that. Now they're in their second game back home. I don't think they're going to overlook Vegas, so this is a tough call in this one. The money is coming in on the Nashville side. It looks like Vegas minus 135, 81% of the tickets on Vegas, 68% of the money, though, on Nashville. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion here. If you want to agree with the market is saying Nashville. I think probably most of the reasoning behind it might even just be that I guess maybe that Vegas is a little bit overrated here and that Vegas has that look ahead to Dallas. But, I don't love that game at all. Dallas at Minnesota. Dallas is coming off beating Colorado on the road. Big win for Dallas at Colorado. Had a couple of days off to kind of think about that. Now they're going to Minnesota. They shouldn't overlook Minnesota, but coming off a big win at Colorado, man, could still be a little bit of a hangover. And I think you will get a good effort out of Minnesota here because they just lost at home to Chicago, and they're staying at home now. Yeah, they got a TV game against Tampa Bay coming up. They have to go on the road, but you're not going to overlook Dallas, and you're probably not going to overlook anybody after you lose to Chicago at home. So I think you're going to get an effort out of Minnesota. I like Minnesota in this one. Dallas is up to minus 128, 61% of the tickets on Dallas, 53% of the cash on Minnesota. So the money seemingly agreeing with me on that one. Buffalo at LA. We know LA, they're not a good home team. I always point that out. They're not very good at home. They're better than the Rangers, at least. Buffalo is on a 3-game win streak. They just shut out Vegas and San Jose on the road. Buffalo's just rolling right now. They might look a little bit too good right now and might be feeling a little bit too good about themselves after doing that. So there could be, maybe a little bit of a letdown component to this here after a couple of road shutout victories. Kings, like I said, they're not particularly good at home, but they did just lose in their return home spot there to Philadelphia. That was a win. I gave that one out on the show, I'm pretty sure, because the Kings were returning home from a road trip. Finished it with a satisfying win against the Rangers. What else is new? Of course, the road team won that matchup with the huge home road splits that favor the road team for both of those teams. Then LA lost to Philadelphia in that first game back home. And I always talk about how when teams don't do well in that first game back home, a lot of times they will play better in that next game because now they're settled in at home. They got done what they need to get done. They didn't do well in that first game. It'll get them to focus again. I thought they might have been looking ahead to this game against Buffalo as well. So I do actually like the Kings in this game, despite their bad home track record. I'm not going to put this on my card, but I like the Kings. Buffalo up to minus 121, 68% of the tickets, only 57% of the cash on Buffalo. So I do lean to LA in that one. Philly at San Jose. Philly has won a couple of games out in California as well. Remember, I liked Philly in both those games, and actually, I think we won in the Anaheim game. I think is the one that we won with Philly. I stayed off the game against LA, but I gave out a lean on Philly in that one. Our friend Jeffrey, I think, was on the Flyers in the second game, which I did agree with because they did have a lot of rest prior to those two games. But now they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. They caught Anaheim and LA both in return home spots, man. I'm pretty sure. So Philly they had an advantage there, man, catching those teams in those spots. Now they played 4 overtime games in a row. I don't like Philly in this one, man. I don't. And San Jose is coming off a bad home loss. I know Buffalo's pretty good. San Jose's not that good, but 5-0 home loss. 3 losses in a row where they've allowed 5 or more goals. But also, San Jose was returning home from a road trip in that game against Buffalo. So they're in kind of a tricky spot there that, is usually a pretty big negative. So I do like San Jose in this one. I would go with the Sharks in this one. Money does seem to agree with me on that one. 57% of tickets, 80% of the cash on San Jose. I like that one. I do agree with that one. As far as if I was going to add any of these to my card, I think that would actually probably be my second favorite. Then I guess LA, then Minnesota out of the ones I've talked about so far. I get in trouble when I start ranking these things, though. I'm trying to be locked in here. All right, Seattle and Columbus. Seattle, a couple of pretty bad losses. Well, I don't want to say bad, but they lost 6-2 to Tampa Bay at home. Tampa's really good, but 6-2, ugly. Then they went to Nashville, and they caught Nashville in the return home spot. I gave out Seattle as a play on the show. Things not going well for us here on the show recently, man. Seattle lost that game. I think there might have been an empty netter at the end of that. Maybe they bounce back here, though. They do have Florida and Tampa Bay and Buffalo and Edmonton all upcoming, though, so that's the worry. But maybe they don't overlook Columbus, man. You've lost a couple games in a row in bad fashion. Columbus having a decent season. Maybe you do show up for a game against them. Columbus has won 3 games in a row. They didn't suffer the letdown off of the Carolina win. Huge win there. They turned around and they just beat the Rangers anyway, even though it was the Rangers on the road where the Rangers are better. I think I probably said that I leaned to the Rangers in that one. Yeah, I mean, tough call in this game. I would probably lean to Seattle. The money seems like it's agreeing with me. 92% of the tickets, 57% of the cash on Columbus. They look like a pretty public side with less than the money on them. They're minus 175, so a lot of respect from the odds makers for Columbus there. I'd lean to Seattle, maybe a split bet, puck line, money line, whatever. Islanders at Montreal. Islanders coming off a loss to Ottawa. Ottawa actually playing pretty well for the most part this season. Islanders, yeah, I mean, they're not going to overlook Montreal coming off of that. It was a tough game, but Montreal, I mean, they're another pretty good team this year. Montreal just lost to Detroit on the road. Difficult game. Detroit's pretty good as well. Montreal does have Carolina on deck. This one, I really don't have much of an opinion on this at all. The money is saying Montreal right now, so do with that what you want to, I guess. 87% of tickets on the Islanders. 64% of the cash, though, on Montreal at minus 121, even though they actually dropped on the money line. But the cash looks like it is on Montreal there. Again, no strong opinion for me at all on that one. But the money says Montreal, so if you want that, you can use that information appropriately. Toronto at Ottawa. Toronto, I don't love the spot that they're in, man. They're on a back-to-back. I think they might be the only team that's on a back-to-back on the NHL card here. NHL board, I should say. They played yesterday, and they took Carolina to overtime. Huge game for Toronto, man, and just falling short yesterday against Carolina. Quick turnaround time, traveling to Ottawa. Not a huge travel leg, but I still don't know what you're going to get out of Toronto here for this, man, off of that huge game. Very difficult spot, I think, for them. Ottawa, coming up, beating the Islanders. They're playing a third game in 4 days, but they're back at home here, staying at home for this game. Good win over the Islanders, but they do have a day of rest here. I would lean towards Ottawa here, but they're laying minus 250. 85% of tickets, 98% of the cash on them. I mean, if you wanted to go Ottawa like over their team total or something, I wouldn't really hate that. To just get a bunch of goals scored against Toronto, who I don't really think is particularly good on defense or in the goaltending department. So if you wanted to do it that way, if you want to lay Ottawa puck line, I guess you could do that. But puck lines, I mean, they get pretty dicey in hockey, man. Because not a lot of goals scored in hockey. St. Louis at Vancouver. St. Louis just lost 2-1 at Calgary, unfortunately, because we had St. Louis in that game with Calgary returning home from a road trip. St. Louis, maybe they show up for this one after that. They've had a couple of days off. Probably want to salvage a game on this road trip. They're 0-2 on the road trip. This is the final game. Bad loss to Calgary. Maybe they do want to show up for this one here. Vancouver just lost to Tampa Bay 2 days ago. Bad final outcome, though, 6-2. Vancouver maybe in a little bit of a letdown spot there off of that Florida win. They beat Florida 5-2. Tampa's really, really good, though. Maybe there's a bounce back component to this, maybe not. I don't know. This is a difficult game. I don't really have a good opinion on this one at all. The money's all coming in on St. Louis for what that's worth. They're up to minus 137, 90% of the cash on them, 52% of the tickets on Vancouver. I don't know what else to say about that game. The money is saying St. Louis in that game. It's a difficult read. Then we have an ABC TV game at night. 8 p.m. Eastern, my Boston Bruins are playing at Detroit here. Bruins, they have a huge home-road split where they're really good at home and they're not good on the road. Last couple of road games, they were pretty competitive, though. They went to overtime in both of them. They're coming off that crushing of Winnipeg at home for the Bruins. Bruins, again, they're really good at home, though. Single game road trip. I can't even talk. Going to Detroit here. I don't really think they're going to overlook Detroit, though. They're having a good season. This is an original 6 matchup, if that matters. 2 of the 06 teams, man, the OGs. Detroit coming off playing another one of those teams, beating Montreal. That was a good win. Staying at home for this one. This is a difficult read in this one. The money's coming in on Detroit. They're minus 125, 60% of tickets, 72% of the cash on Detroit. Of course, you got to take these percentages with a little bit of a grain of salt in the morning, too, because they might change throughout the day. I don't have a strong opinion on this game either, though. I think Detroit, coming off a bigger win, could be kind of more of an iffy spot, but I really don't like the Bruins on the road. So, the money is saying Detroit, so do with that information what you want. And then we have Tampa Bay at Edmonton to finish it off. Pretty good game here. One of the better games of the day. Bruins Red Wings is not a horrible game either, though. So not the worst game they could have put on TV there. Tampa, they just beat Vancouver on the road, so they're undefeated on the road trip so far, but Edmonton is a step up in class from Seattle and Vancouver. And Tampa was on a bad stretch up until these 2 recent wins, and those wins were against pretty unimpressive opponents. So we'll see what they can do against Edmonton here. Edmonton just lost 4-0 at home to Florida in the Stanley Cup rematch, whatever. Edmonton did actually beat Florida the first time they played this year. So they got a little bit of revenge. Florida got a little bit of revenge back in that one. I kind of lean towards Edmonton here, man. They're staying at home. Teams that got shut out at home and they're staying at home tend to do pretty well in their next game. I think Tampa Bay is really good, but it still kind of remains to be seen what they're going to be able to do in this one, having to step back up in class. 73% of the tickets are on Tampa Bay, 55% of the cash on Edmonton. I do agree with Edmonton in this one. Tampa down to minus 138 on the money line. So that's all the information there for hockey. We're going to NBA, and the NBA play I'm going to give out is, oh boy, is it bad. And it's another one where the market read is not agreeing with. So I'm giving you 3 plays when the market doesn't agree with me. That's awesome. We have an early evening game to start this out. Everybody's going to want to watch this game, right? It's not even on one of the major TV networks. Oklahoma City at Washington. Isn't this one awesome, guys? This is going to be the largest road favorite that you'll see in the NBA here. Because you basically have the worst team in the NBA, Washington, with a bunch of injuries against the best team in the NBA, Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is like a 20-point favorite here on the road, man. Oklahoma City's on a huge run again here. They've won 10 games in a row. This is a game they could just sleepwalk through, though. There's no way that I would lay 20 points here on the road, even if it is against Washington. But, you have to try to gauge how much effort Washington is going to give you here, Oklahoma City just blew out Brooklyn on the road. I don't think you can take anything away from that. They do have Philly and Boston on deck, but it's an injured Philly team, so I don't know how much of a look ahead that might be. Again, Washington, they really might not pay much attention to. Washington just got blown out again against Detroit. They did not do well. So Washington not even putting in effort here. It looks like, well, maybe they were and they just weren't good enough, but who knows? I mean, you got to think, though, with Oklahoma City coming into your place, you will at least try to show something. This is not a game I would want to touch in any way. I think it's almost unbettable, but the Thunder are minus 21 on the road, and they're actually taking money, 58% of the tickets and 71% of the cash. No, thank you. I would probably lean towards taking the points there, but I would not want to do it. Memphis at Charlotte. When I first looked at this game, Memphis just played the Celtics pretty tough last night, man. Memphis, this is a team where, pretty much all their starters are injured, so they're playing with a bunch of backups. They gave you some good effort in the last couple of games, beating Denver, and then they had the lead against the Celtics for a while, and then Memphis just didn't have enough, and they faded out against a good Celtic team. Celtics were, kind of in a dicey spot there. Celtics won and did not cover. Memphis now coming off of that, having to go to Charlotte with no days off, by the way. Memphis is on a back-to-back. That was yesterday, coming off 2 big games in the last couple of days. I don't like the spot for Memphis here, man. Charlotte, I don't know how much I love Charlotte in the spot either, though, because they did just blow out Miami and Orlando. And now they're playing Memphis. I mean, it's like, how much are they really going to pay attention to Memphis after all of that? I mean, Charlotte, they actually could, dude, they're actually playing to get out of the play-in right now and get into the playoffs and avoid the play-in. How insane is that? I told you like a couple of months ago that Charlotte to make the playoffs was a really good bet, and they might. I mean, they're gonna at least be a play-in team, and then you'd have to, they'd have to win the play-ins to get in, but, I think they're going to. I think they're going to be in the playoffs. Playoffs? Let me do it. Why not?
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
All right. Charlotte, coming off some blowout wins. I don't know how much effort they're going to put in either. And if you want Charlotte here, you got to lay a ton of points here. It's crazy to think about. Charlotte is a 17.5-point favorite in this game. How ridiculous is that? And it opened 13.5. I don't even know what swung the number like this because, the Hornets, I don't know if they have any significant injuries, some guy coming back. I have no idea. Grizzlies, we know they're already playing with all backups. So, I don't know. It's just crazy to see the Hornets being this big of a favorite. 50% of tickets, 51% of the cash on the Grizzlies. Some of the move might have just been because the Grizzlies are on the back-to-back, and maybe it moved after we saw them almost beat not really almost beat the Celtics, but the Grizzlies were still within, several points, and then they cut it to 5 when it was too late at the end, but, I'm going to be honest. I think I would probably lay the points with the Hornets in that game. It sounds ridiculous. I don't want to do it. I don't want to lay 17.5 with them, but, that would probably be my opinion in that one. Embiid, he's had more games that he's missed than played probably, yeah. It's kind of ridiculous. Is that over his whole career, though? I don't know. He's got bad knees, that's for sure. You're going to tail this play? Oh, boy. But the Sixers, they removed him from their books. That's insane. Dude, I don't even... Maybe it sounds like it's all a scam, to be honest. Anyway, NBA TV, Lakers at Orlando. The Lakers, dude, they cannot continue this. They've won 8 games in a row. Again, I'm going to tell you, their defense is really not good enough. Look at some of these point totals they've allowed during this stretch. They've allowed 117, 106, 130, 125, although in overtime, 116, 126. I don't buy it, man. This Laker defense is still not good enough. They're playing a 4th game in 6 days right now, all in different cities. 5th and 8 as well, all in different cities. They're coming up beating Denver, Houston twice, Miami, now playing Orlando, and they do have Detroit on deck. Orlando's still without Wagner, but yeah, I know I tried to fade the Lakers once in that mix there. I'm still not buying this run from them. Orlando just got blown out by Charlotte, but look at what Orlando was coming off of. Orlando had played Oklahoma City to within 5 points the game before that, so they were in a bad spot. Charlotte blew them out. Now I think back at home, only returning home from one game on the road. I like Orlando in this one, man. LA looks too good right now. It would be a buy low spot on the Magic, a sell very high spot on the Lakers. The Lakers are taking the money. I don't agree with it. 57% of tickets, 84% of the cash on the Lakers. They're up to three with juice here. I don't agree. I would take the points with Orlando here. Yeah, I mean, when a team is that hot, it just means they're going to be overvalued in the market, man. Yeah, that's just definitely not how I do things. I try to jump in and bust streaks. This is not going to be a play for me or whatever, but yeah, I mean, I lean to Orlando in that one. You got Lakers coming off some kind of misleading wins. They look too good right now. Orlando off a horrendous blowout loss. That's the way I would lean. Orlando's still without Wagner here, though. He's supposed to be back soon. I don't know. Cleveland at New Orleans. This line looks ridiculous. Cleveland's only laying 4.5. It looks so easy to lay the points with the Cavs in this one. But the odds makers have been giving the Pelicans respect. Like, they're not as bad as people think they are. They've been injured throughout the season. 56% of the tickets are on the Cavs, 69% of the cash on the Pelicans. So the money is indicating on the Pelicans. Now, first of all, I mean, I looked at this line and I'm like, somebody's got to be injured for the Cavs. There's no way that 4.5 is what it would be otherwise. And Donovan Mitchell is on the injury report, so I'm guessing that's why. I'm guessing it kind of means that he's probably not going to play, although he has an eye injury. I don't know what the deal is with that. He's questionable, but to me that line seems to indicate he's not playing. If it does turn out that he is going to play, I think that line is going to go up on Cleveland. As far as Cleveland's spot here, they've won 2 games in a row, but they beat Milwaukee and Chicago. I mean, that's not a big deal. Now they're going to New Orleans. They do have Orlando on deck. They did just lose to Orlando not that long ago, so maybe a little bit of a look ahead there. Cleveland didn't do that well against Chicago, though. So, you know, when a favorite like Cleveland doesn't do that well against a bad team like Chicago, sometimes they will bounce back. New Orleans is coming off 2 good wins against the Clippers. Clippers, not a bad team. I don't think New Orleans is going to overlook Cleveland, though. So this is a difficult read for me. I don't have a good opinion on this at all. I believe Mitchell has already been out for 1 or 2 games, so it's not an injured player theory spot for the Cavs. Like I talk about that, when your star player goes down, you want to look to play on that team in the first game because you get line value and the team usually steps up their game. But when he's been out for a couple of games already, I think you don't get that type of situation anymore. I'm not going to really, I don't know. I don't really want to disagree with a market read like this. It's indicating on the Pelicans, but we're staying away from it. Yeah, low with the streak. We're buying low. That's usually what I like to do. Pink guy from eating ass. Is that what he does? I don't know. Maybe it's LeBron's mom's. I don't know, man. Just like Delonte West used to do. Whatever happened to Delonte, man? Former Boston Celtic, Delonte West, who also slept with LeBron's mother, if you didn't know that. That was a recurring joke. I used to submit to the Toucher and Rich. They had a mailbag on local radio here. They were like the morning radio, one of the popular radio shows, and they talked a lot about sports, so they wound up on the sports station. But they would have a mailbag segment, and I would always submit mailbags as Delonte West, and it would be like talking about LeBron's mom and stuff. That was one of the bits that I had going on for a while there. They usually read mine. I did that like several times. All right. Yes, correct. Delonte, man, dude, I think he's like homeless now or something. Somebody needs to go help Delonte. Golden State at Atlanta. This is kind of an interesting one where we have the trade components here potentially playing each other, if any of them are even healthy. I don't know. Porzingis was on Atlanta. Now he's on Golden State. You got Kuminga, I think, went from Golden State to Atlanta. Crazy stuff going on here, but they both might not play. Who knows? They're both always on the injury report. Golden State just lost to Detroit yesterday. They're in a very rare spot where they're actually playing a 5th game in 7 days, all in different cities. And you know I don't like that. That's a rare phenomenon in the NBA. And they're also playing a 6 game in 9 days, all in different cities. So the travel for Golden State is not good here. It could catch up to them on the back-to-back here, too. So Atlanta keeps lucking out with some of these spots that they're getting here. But I don't like the spot for Atlanta because they just lost their win streak finally. They'd won 11 games in a row. They lost to Houston yesterday. They're on a back-to-back. They're coming home from a road trip. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities. They only went to Texas for 2 games, but still, I don't love the spot for Atlanta here because when a team loses a long win streak like that, a lot of times that will be a hangover, and it'll hang them over into the next game. I don't love it, man. I think what I would do in this game is I would play the over. And the money looks like it does agree with me here. 59% of tickets, 85% of the cash on the over. It's up to 229, which is a pretty reasonable total, to be honest. Don't know who's playing in this game. I don't know if it matters, really. I think with both teams being in very questionable spots, defenses could be tired because they're both on back-to-backs. Over would be what I would do here. As far as the side, the Hawks are minus 10.5 now, up from 6. So I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if the Hawks even have one player that would drive the line up 4 points. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it's just because the Warriors are in that dreaded 5th and 7 situation, playing 5 games in 7 days. I don't know. 84% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on the Hawks. Money is coming in on the Hawks for what that's worth. I'm going to stay off of it, of course. I don't want anything to do with the game. But again, I think my preference in that game would be to go over and avoid the side in that one. I don't have a good opinion on the side at all. The money looks like it's sort of on the Hawks there, but you heard my reasoning for not liking the Hawks there, but I don't like Golden State either there. Miami at Houston. Miami just lost to the Lakers. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Losing to 3 teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs. I mean, Orlando and the Lakers definitely will be. Charlotte, I think, is going to make it as well. So, I'm not going to knock Miami too much for all that. I think Adebayo missed at least one of those games. He might have missed 2, yeah. I think Adebayo missed 2 of those games. He came back, and they lost to the Lakers anyway. But, I talk about the reverse injured player spot a lot. When your star player comes back, a lot of times the team will have to readjust him being back, and they won't put in as good of an effort as you expect, So that happened in that game. Maybe they'll play better here, going out on the road to face Houston. They're not going to overlook Houston here. Houston just crushed Atlanta. Now, I don't think Houston's really going to overlook Miami either, but they are on a back-to-back. Houston played yesterday, but at least for them, they're staying at home. They only had 1 day off prior to that, though. This is a difficult call, too. The money's coming in on the Heat. I think I will probably agree with the Heat there. Rockets down to 2 here, 58% of the tickets on them, 53% of the money on the Heat. So, yeah, I'll slightly agree with the Heat there. I know we still haven't gotten to my play yet. I'm telling you, it's an ugly one. You might be able to figure it out. Indiana at San Antonio. This is not it either. Indiana, we don't know what we're going to get out of Indiana here, man. Like, what are you going to get for effort out of this team? They lost 15 straight games now. Indiana has lost. Don't know how much effort you're going to get out of them here. Maybe they will put in effort, though, because they've had a couple of days off. They get to play one of the top teams in the NBA, San Antonio. Maybe you will get an effort out of them for a game here. San Antonio is coming off barely getting by Phoenix as a big favorite, though. And it's a good win against a team that's going to be in the playoffs, Phoenix. But I talk about this. When a team like San Antonio is a big favorite and they barely win, they were 9.5-point favorites, and they just got by, a lot of times they will show up in the next game and be focused. But there is the chance they don't take Indiana seriously, and they do have Miami on deck to start a road trip, which is kind of a bigger game. So I don't like this game at all. The Spurs are minus 19 here. Large number, of course. 57% of tickets on them, 57% of the cash on the Pacers. So act accordingly, I would say. The market read, the money right now is on Indiana for what that's worth. Is that true? West robbed somebody for $23 and got arrested. Maybe I heard about that. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's homeless, man. That'll cover up. You remember he had that weird birthmark on his face or whatever? Maybe if he's homeless, maybe his whole face will get gunked up so you won't see it anymore. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. Dude, Delonte West, oh, man. I remember him playing in college when he was on St. Joe's. St. Joe's was like one of the top teams in the country. They had Delonte West, and they had, oh, my God, who else was on that? Some other guy that made the NBA was on that team. I'm trying to remember. That team was really awesome, man, but they just weren't good enough to, like, they were one of those teams where they were, like, super good from, like, a small conference, and people were like, this team is, like, elite. They're, like, number one in the country. But I'm like, they're not going to win at all because they're from a power conference. You know what I mean? So, but that was back before I was really handicapping sports and whatever. So, I don't know. But I kind of remember that tournament. I think I might have been a freshman in college when that tournament happened. I remember, I think, I don't know, there was one big, like, 1 seed that got knocked out in that one. I want to say it was Stanford lost to, like, Alabama or something. It was, like, a huge upset in that tournament. I forget. I don't remember, man. Don't remember who won the whole thing either. I want to say it was, like, I almost want to say it was, like, Illinois or something because they were really good around that time, too. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it all mixed up. I didn't pay enough attention at that point. Anyway. Clippers at Dallas. Clippers just lost twice to the Pelicans. You can kind of figure out why they lost the first time because they were coming off a big game against San Antonio. The second game, maybe a little bit more questionable. Like, how did they lose to the Pelicans twice? I don't know, man. But coming off of all that, maybe you'll get an effort out of them. Problem is they're playing a 4th game in 6 days now, all in different cities, which is not easy to do. I still think you're going to get effort out of them. I mean, the Clippers are still fighting to avoid the play-in as well here, so there is still some motivation for the Clippers here. Dallas is just kind of playing out the stretch. I mean, maybe if they care about playing spoiler against the Clippers, I don't know. But the Dallas is more rested here. They're staying at home. They've had 2 days off. They lost by 15 to Atlanta in their last game, and they lost by double digits to New Orleans before that on the road. So both teams, not playing well against New Orleans recently. Clippers are a 7-point favorite. It looks like the money is coming in on Dallas. 80% of tickets, 99% of the cash on the Mavs. I wouldn't, I don't think that percentage is accurate, but I think I would agree with probably taking the points in that one. Clippers probably just laying a little bit too much on the road there, especially given that the Mavericks do have a travel and rest edge there. Philadelphia at Utah. Of course, Philadelphia basically has nobody playing for them right now. They're still without George, who's suspended. Embiid is hurt. Maxey is hurt. Oubre is hurt. This Philadelphia team still got the job done against the Kings. Sorry to Jeffrey because I was chiding him for having money on the Sixers in that game. Dude, I was right about that game too, though. I said if you were going to play that game, I said over made the most sense in that game. That's what I said. That was in my Twitter chat where I said that, by the way. If you want to get into that, we have a subscribers chat on Twitter with only like 2 dudes. It's me and 3 other dudes in there right now, including Jeffrey, who hopefully he comes back to the show here, man. But I'm too much of an ass, maybe. I don't know. I chide people too much for some of their plays that they make. I'm trying to be better at that, all right? But I was correct about the over. Jeffrey was correct about Philly, so we were both right. So there you go. That was a game where it's like, how do you even know what you're going to get in that game, right? Like on the side, Philly and the Kings. Kings basically have nobody playing for them either. That's why I said over, because you get these games that are basically like going to be a scrimmage, you know what I mean, with all backups playing. A lot of times you'll get some value on the over there because the sense is, oh, nobody's playing, so who's going to score, right? But I'm like, no, but what happens is usually the teams just don't get really intense on defense, Anyway, Philly's coming up that win over Sacramento, easy win. They're going into elevation to play Utah here, though. Not that easy to do, and they got Oklahoma City on deck, so could be a potential look ahead there. Utah just ended a losing streak by beating the Bucks. And, I like that. When a team loses, the team ends a losing streak, a lot of times they will carry that new momentum forward and play better in that next game. They're playing a third game in 4 days, but they are at least staying at home here. They blew out Milwaukee in quick revenge. So, there is that. There was recent revenge there. So, I guess there is a little bit of a worry. They're going to be feeling really good about themselves. But I think I like Utah in this one. You got to pay attention to Utah's injury stuff too. Mostly Markkanen, but he is still out. I don't even know if he's going to come back, man. Why would they bring him back when they're not going anywhere this year? He's probably not going to play again this year, but I would lean towards the Jazz in this one. Sixers are laying 6 here. The Sixers with nobody playing, they're laying 6. Oh, my God. Jazz, of course, they have a lot of injuries too. Hey, my man Ace Bailey, who I said was one of the best players in the draft class this year, He did really well last night. He put up like 33, or last game for the Jazz. He put up like 33. I got his jersey, so let's go, man. Let's go, Ace. 54% of tickets, 67% of the cash on the Jazz. So the money is coming in on the Jazz. I agree with that one. That leaves the last game here on NBA TV, and you know this has to be my play. I hate Reddit, dude. Yeah, I can't go on Reddit. I was a mod on a couple of subreddits. One being a Red Sox one, but I think they probably removed me as a mod because I just became inactive pretty much. And then the other one was one of my college roommates and I. We saw the first world problems, second world problems, third world problems, and there's all these levels of abstraction that got all the way up to like eighth world problems, and it was like this subreddit that's just so. I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for. Like, the subreddits become so, like, incoherent at that level. Like, you don't even know what's going on anymore. I was like, let's make, like, the most incoherent version of this that we can make. Let's take it to this level of abstraction that makes so little sense that we will not allow any posts that have, like, any language in them at all. Like, the only posts that we're allowing are posts that are legitimately completely incoherent. And I made the CSS so bad that you can't even, like, figure out where, like, how to even post on it. Like, you can't even see the links and whatever. And the whole background is, like, an optical illusion that almost, like, makes you high. I think it's infinite world problems, yeah. But now I'm doxing myself probably with that. But I hate Reddit, dude. I haven't been on there in so long. Yeah, I can't stand the people on Reddit. It's not schizo, though, because it's like, it's literally just you have to post something that's at such a level of abstraction that it's, you know what I mean? Like, that a human mind cannot comprehend it, basically. Pretty much. All right, Milwaukee and Phoenix here. Obviously, this is my play. This is, oh, man, this is ugly. We're going to be on Milwaukee plus 11.5. I'll give you another underdog here. This is, yeah, I know it sounds bad. It looks bad. We're getting a lot of points here, though, and it's a low total for the NBA in 219, so I do like taking points when you think there's going to be less scoring in a game, although the money is coming in on the over in this one. 62% of the tickets and 75% of the cash on the Suns, so I am fading the market read in this one, but I like the spot here, man. I think it's a bad spot for Phoenix because one thing I already mentioned earlier when I talked about San Antonio, Phoenix just almost beat San Antonio, man. They just went into San Antonio and lost by 1. Phoenix, really close call, is a big underdog against one of the best teams in the NBA. Huge game for Phoenix. So I think that puts them in a hangover spot coming off of that. To make matters worse, they're playing a 4th game in 6 days, all in different cities, and on top of all that, they're returning home from a road trip that took them as far as Toronto and Boston. They started the road trip on the 10th, so they've been on the road for a double-digit amount of days, and I talk about this, when you return home from a road trip, a lot of times you're distracted, you got to get back to home life, whatever, and they already beat Milwaukee on the road during the road trip. That was the first game on the road trip. They beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee, which I'm assuming was without Giannis, but Giannis is also hurt again, so he's not playing in this game either. But it's still kind of like a quick revenge for Milwaukee. But I think more so what the case is that Phoenix is just going to overlook Milwaukee because they beat Milwaukee on the road. And they have Toronto up next. And, Phoenix happened to lose at Toronto during that road trip as well, so they might look ahead to that game a little bit. And they have Denver on deck after that. Now, yes, I know this is a TV game for Phoenix, so that might motivate you a little bit more, but I think the spot is just too horrible for them, man. And for Milwaukee, I think you got to get an effort out of Milwaukee here, man. They're coming off a really, really bad loss in Utah. They got absolutely embarrassed by 30-something points against Utah. I think if that happens and you're playing a Phoenix team that's pretty good and just beat you, you're going to show up for this game. And what we see is Milwaukee is putting in some effort, although I know, that was without Giannis. But let's think about this, though. Look at the game that Milwaukee played before that. It was the first game without Giannis again, and they played Cleveland to within 7 points. That was actually a good effort out of Milwaukee in that one. And that was the injured player theory spot that we talk about. Milwaukee had won the last game with Giannis in there against Indiana. He got hurt. They stepped up their level of intensity for a big game against Cleveland. Then they just had nothing left in the next game. So I think you can explain why they were so bad against Utah, because they had to go all the way out into elevation off a big game against Cleveland, second game without Giannis. But now I think you kind of enter that spot where it's just kind of a normal handicap now, where they're used to being without Giannis again, Like I said, he did not play in that game against Phoenix. I think his first game where he came back was against Miami. Yeah, I guess do with all that information what you want to. But, yeah, I like Milwaukee here. I think you can kind of explain why they were so bad in that Utah game. And I think it was bad enough that you're going to get a better effort out of them here. So that's what we're going with here. We will go with Milwaukee here. Yes, there is a little bit of a concern that they're playing, what is this? 5 games in the last 8 days. But, a couple of them in the middle were at home. So I'm not quite as worried about that. We'll be on the Bucks, even though the money is saying otherwise there. And that's it, man. That's the show for today. The plays, one more time, we're laying 2 double-digit favorites in the tournament. Duke minus the points, Arkansas minus the points. But, I gave you the reasoning why. Hockey, we're grabbing an underdog that I love the spot there for the Winnipeg Jets. We're doing that. And then NBA, we're taking an ugly underdog there, Milwaukee, plus the points. Those are my 4 plays today. Let's have a good one. Let's have a good Saturday today, man. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the games. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like I said, you can subscribe to me on Twitter, and you do get into that group chat if you do that, as long as your app is updated. I apologize. I'm also belching while I'm doing this. Belching up the oatmeal. That's what I do, man. Yeah, it's gross. Like and subscribe to the channel here. Give me good replies here on the channel. Let's boost this thing, as I always say, which hasn't been working, but, we're on audio as well, Apple, Spotify. Give me good reviews over there. Listening, all that helps over there. We got Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. You can check that out as well. I've been doing some Uke covers. Most recently, I did the Afro Man cover. To shout out to Afro Man for beating the system. And now he's running for president again. So there you go. Got to meet him once as well at the Libertarian Party convention when we had karaoke with Afro Man, and he just did his own songs when he took the stage. It was pretty awesome, to be honest. Then what else do we have? Patreon.com/LearnToToad if you want to get mad at me for not paying enough attention to it. And then Losercast every Tuesday night is the comedy show that I do right now. That's going to do it. Yes, sir. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. What? Wait, what? My audio's not on Spotify? Let me check. I've been doing it. I'm doing it through I'm publishing it through Spreaker still. I know Spreaker took me down. Like they nuked my account, but since it's been back, hold on, let me see. I mean, thanks for letting me know, I guess. I can't even find it through the search, man. What the hell? So, like, you mean you can't even find it in search now? Is that what we're talking about? What the hell? If Spotify, like, banned me or something, I wouldn't even know because, what the hell? Yeah, I wouldn't even, like, know about it because, like, yeah, I don't know. Am I on Apple still? Oh, my God. Dude, I might have to stop using Spreaker. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, I'm on Apple still. How am I not on Spotify? Dude, if Spotify took me down, I don't know why they would, but it also, like, I don't know. It makes no sense. Fuck. I might have to contact Spreaker again about that. Well, thanks for letting me know, I guess. That's some fucking bullshit. Fuck. God, I hate these. Dude, I hate these companies. I hate them. All right, I'm going to look into that. Thank you for letting me know. That's going to do it. Yeah, but, dude, I'm just doing sports content here, so why do I get banned for that? No idea. That's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys. Peace.